Hello there, my name is Charlie, and today I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can make a timer that will be very functionally similar to this. As you can see, we've got a start, we've got a stop, and it even comes with decimal places and a reset button. So let's get straight into coding this. Right, so here we go, we've got a blank Codepen. Codepen is a really useful tool if you haven't used it before, and what it does is it actually allows you really easily to just get a project done. So in this demonstration I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can do this. So we'll be doing all of the functionality before we do anything else, such as putting in the JavaScript before we do any of the CSS, just so that you can get an idea of how the timer works, and then obviously I'll show you how I managed to style it reasonably well. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to want to have a div with the class timer, and we're going to have that set as 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, 0.0 minutes, or 10th seconds. And then below that we're going to have the buttons, with within that we're going to have a start timer, which on click is going to execute a function that we're going to have in another window called timer. And we're going to label that start, and then we're going to have a stop timer, and then on click that's going to clear out some code that will run in a bit, which will be clear timeout of t, and we're going to label that stop. And then below that we're going to have dot reset dash timer, and we're going to also give it a class of material icons, which will help us when we need to use that little reset button. And then on click, what we're going to do is we're going to run reset timer, which will be another function. I'm assuming you've already got basic knowledge of how to do this. But there we go, we've got a start, we've got a stop, and we've got a replay. And obviously if we bring up the console, it's going to tell us, in theory, it's not going to tell us anything, because it should be logged here. So we've got our console, there we go, see, uncaught reference error, timer is not defined, T is not defined, reset timer is not defined. So that's just going to error because obviously we haven't written anything here yet. Right, so we're going to ignore the CSS for a minute, and straight away we're going to go into the JavaScript, and we're going to declare several variables. So we've got the variable current time, and this will actually be the time. If you look over here, it will be this element. So we're going to have current time will equal to document dot get element by class name, and then within that we're going to have any elements named timer. And just so that we don't run into any errors, obviously instead of using classes, you could use what they're called. You could use what's it called? IDs, and to avoid that, we're just going to say that current time will equal the first timer, and obviously Java 0 indexed, or JavaScript is 0 indexed. But then we're going to declare multiple variables at once. So we've then got a start variable, which will equal document get elements by class name of start dash timer. So obviously we've got start dash timer in here, and that's there. And the reason we're not using buttons is because it becomes a lot easier just to style a div later on, and then again we're going to use 0. And then after that we're going to have another one called stop, which will be the same sort of thing. Stop dash timer, and then we're going to also put that 0 after it, and then finally, almost final HTML element we're going to define is reset, which will be equal to get elements by class name of reset dash timer, and then obviously the 0 again. And then we could do this with milliseconds, but I find that we don't really need that. So I'm just going to go with every 10th second. So we're going to define t seconds, which will equal 0. We're going to define seconds, which will equal 0. We're going to define minutes, which will equal 0. And then we're going to define hours, which will again equal 0. And then finally, we're going to declare a null variable, which is t. But it needs to be defined for later. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a function. Cool. Sorry, let me just get my other reference material up. Right, we're going to have a function called add, which when called, it's going to, first of all, it'll add 1 to the 10th second. So every time it's called, it'll change 10th seconds from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, blah blah blah. And then within that, we're going to actually do an if statement. So if the 10th seconds, or t seconds, sorry, is going to be greater than or equal to 10, what we're going to do is we're then going to run the following code. And within that, we're going to reset the 10th seconds to 0. So every 10 second, or every 10th seconds, we're going to reset to 0, and then we're actually going to add 1 to the seconds. So you should see a familiar pattern emerging. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to repeat all of this, just all the way up to when we get to hours. So then within that, after seconds plus plus, if seconds is, instead of greater than or equal to 10, I'm going to do greater than or equal to 60, because obviously 60 seconds in a minute. Then what we're going to do is we're going to run seconds will be reset to 0, and then we're going to run minutes plus plus, and then I'll give again, obviously, if minutes is greater than or equal to 60, then we're going to reset minutes to 0, and then we're going to do hours plus, and then obviously there's no larger time scale. That you could go into days if you wanted, but I'm not going to do that. So we're actually going to make our code window a little bit bigger here, and then okay. So we've got our add function so far, which will add every time it's called, it'll add a 10th second on, and then if it becomes a full second, it'll reset, and so on and so on and so on. Anyway, once you've done that, you're going to want to come out of this bit, but stay within the add function. And then what we're going to do is we're going to want to set the current time text content. So this bit here, we're going to change that every time this function is called, and we're actually going to set it to this bit is where it gets sort of confusing. So we're going to use a sort of a really shorthand if statement. So we're going to display the hours, and then we're going to say if the hours is bigger than 9, we just need to display the hours. But if it is not, it'll put a 0. It'll append the hours. And then after that, if there's no hours, it'll just show 0, 0. And then we're going to add obviously the colon, and then we're going to add again, and then we're going to do a similar thing but for minutes this time. So if minutes, where if it is greater than 9, and then we're going to add the minutes again, and obviously if there's no minutes, we're going to just do 0, 0 again, and then we're going to finally add a colon, and then go again down into seconds, and then we can just append 10 seconds after that. So we're going to go seconds if it's greater than 9, then we're going to say seconds. Seconds. We're going to append 0. Otherwise, we're going to just add seconds. And then finally, we're going to add a dot, and then we're going to just add the 10th second or t seconds on. So let me just quickly double check that. I've got it right. Yes, I did have it right. Cool. And then after that, we're going to just run a timer again, which you'll see why we run that in a minute. So this, every time add is called, it'll just replace the content of this, and we've used some fairly simple logic. You can obviously read up, it's a ternary operator, but you can read up on that if you want to learn a little bit more about that. I'll link to it in the description. Here we've got we're going to call another function, we're going to call it timer, and within the timer we're going to have, we're going to set a timeout. This is why we declared variable t. We're going to set timeout, and we're going to make it call the add function, and we're going to call the add function every 100 milliseconds, so that's every 10th of a second. And then obviously we're going to have a function called reset timer, which will set the current time, text content equal to 00:00:00.0. And then we're going to actually reset all of our variables. So we're going to reset t seconds. We're going to set minutes equal to, or seconds, sorry, equal to 0. We're going to set minutes equal to 0. And then we're going to set hours equal to 0. And then, fingers crossed, if we press start, sorry, when it reloads, I don't know why it's done that, but it has. We should have our pen here somewhere. There we go. And if you press start, it's going to start a timer. Press stop, stop the timer, start it again, it'll just carry on. And then if you click replay, it will reset it. So that's all of the logic done. I'll leave a link to the pen in the description. So here you go. You can either read it now or you can copy and paste the code. I'll leave a link to that in the description, but if you want to keep watching, I'm going to show you how to style it quite nicely. Thanks for watching if you're going to click off. Otherwise, stay watching and I'll show you how to style it. Let me just change the feedback. Okay. So we've finished with all the logic now. We don't need to do any more of that, so we can just focus on the HTML and the CSS now. It's mainly going to be the CSS because we've already got all of that done. So for this, we're going to do a couple of imports first. We're going to call the we're going to get the font, 2 fonts. We're going to get the Material Icons font, and we're going to get another font which is called Quicksand, which I quite like. So I'm just going to copy the imports for both of them. So Quicksand will be our typeface, and the Material Icons, you'll see it's already done it there. So we've got our Material Icon just there. Anyway, we're going to set the body. We're going to give it a background color. Remember, you don't need to do any of this. Obviously, feel free to edit it as you like, but I'm going to set the background color to EEE, which is like a slightly duller white. And then we're going to give it a width of 100 VW and a height of 100 VH. So that's set the body equal to the whole width and height of the page, and this will allow us to center text. So if we do display flex, and then if we do justify content center, justify content and align items center, and then if we do flex direction column, it'll just put the things in order. But that's got our body sorted out, and then we can give the timer a bit of styling. So we'll set, in fact, within the body, we're going to set everything's font family to quicksand, and then if it can't for some reason get quicksand, we're going to set it to sans serif. So there we go, we've got our timer updated there. And then we're actually going to do the timer styling, so we'll give it some padding. We'll give it, let's say, 15 pixels, and we're going to set the font size to, say, 500%. There we go, there's our nice big timer. That should be all the styling we need for the timer. And then obviously we're going to set the buttons div, which is up here. We're going to display flex again, and what that will do is it will just change it from going vertically to going horizontally. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give all of these buttons, we're going to give them the dot button class. And then within the dot button class, we can obviously give them some padding. In fact, the reset timer won't need that, but the other two can be button. So the dot button, anything with the dot button, what we're going to do is we're going to tell it that it's going to have 15 pixels padding, or better, probably 10. And then with the buttons, sorry, we're going to also set the justify, just so that it's all nicely centered. Center and align items. Center. And there we go, see, that's moved that down nicely now. But with each button now, we can give it a border. And we'll set that to solid border, 1 pixel and black. And then we can give them a border radius of 5 pixels maybe, or maybe 10, 15 maybe. Okay, give them border radius of 15 pixels. We can actually make this 2 pixels. Okay. And then with each of them, instead of padding, sorry, it should be, they should also have a margin, 10 pixels, and that'll space them out nicely. And then we're going to add some special hover effects to each of the buttons. So we're going to do an on hover, so we're going to do for each one so that we can have a separate color. We're going to have the start timer, we're going to do a transition, and then we're going to do 0.5 seconds. And then we're going to do and colon hover, slash, and we're going to just copy that. Indent it. Okay. And then within the hover, we'll say the border can go from 2 pixels solid, and then color can go to 2 pixels solid, and then we'll say go for the green, which will be the start timer. We're going to give it hashtag 56DD6C, which is, as you can see, nice green color. And we'll also change the font color to that same color, 56D6C. And then we're going to do a similar thing, but just with different color for the other one. So 2 pixels solid, hashtag, and then the red one can be hashtag B70009, and we can set the color to that as well. To pick, hashtag B70009. And there we go, we've got a start button and a stop button. Sorry, I need to change that to stop. So we've got a start button and a stop button now, and better yet, if you don't want them selecting any of the buttons, so within the button we can put user select, so that they'll still be able to copy the time, but they won't be able to select any of the buttons. And then even better, we can do cursor, pointer, and then that will give a pointer on both these ones, and then we'll just copy the same thing over to reset timer, because we haven't given it a fact. We can change that. We'll just move the cursor pointer to anything with a button within buttons. So that's a pointer, pointer, and pointer. And there we go, we've got a fully functioning timer. I'll obviously link to it in the description. Here's the full finished pen, Codepen, again, really good website. But if you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to make a very functional, simple timer, then be sure to like it and share it with some of your friends if you think they might find it useful. But anyway, if you did enjoy, yeah, I'll see you next time, and you should be